Hey everybody, Jason here from iAnimate. Hopefully you're all doing fantastic this week. So in this week's snippet, we're going to talk about when is the best time to use a straight ahead approach when planning your shots. So when I started learning animation, it was about 28 years ago. I was started out as a 2D traditional animator where we were doing drawings on pencil paper, flipping and all that kind of stuff, and then pencil testing. And there was really about three different approaches to animation, right? There was pose to pose, straight ahead, and then a combination of the two, right? So pose to pose is probably the more useful, predictable way of working when doing acting shots. So let's say you had like a really strong acting pose that you wanted to use that had like a specific spot, right? Like where you got a character on a leaning on a table and he has a specific head angle change that you wanted to make. You could very, very easily do that drawing first and then work into that drawing and out of that drawing, or play the animation around that drawing. Straight ahead animation is more unpredictable. And the way I use it, I mean, the reason I would use it is for action shots. If I want something very, very organic, right? If I wanted like some way of like getting a character into a shot sort of off balance, maybe slightly swimming a little bit, like trying to regain balance and then starting back into a run. It's sort of very unpredictable. So you can't really kind of go, okay, I'm going to do pose one. I'm going to do a pose at 21 and a pose at 31 and know exactly where that's going to be. The straight ahead approach allows you to sort of work in a straight ahead manner, almost like stop motion, where you're basically moving the character through space and in sort of seeing where your previous pose was as you're doing the current pose. But I like to do like a straight ahead approach for those types of action shots. So in other words, for this sequence here that I'm doing, it's sort of like a mini sequence that I'm doing for iAnimate, where we did like a walk, okay? Sort of a character walk, and then it works into this shot, right? So we're going from screen right to screen left, okay? And then getting into this dialogue shot here.
Gun here and there'll be pandemonium. All right, do you hear me? There'll be cops swarming all over this block.
You think so? Let's see. 1, 2.
Okay, so the character's running at the very end, and then graphically he's going from screen left to screen right. So I wanted to plan out this shot here where the character is going to come across the screen here, right? And then run towards us and sort of like go towards the right of the camera, right? So in something like this, I wouldn't be able to just kind of plan out like on one sheet of paper, like how I'm actually going to go into that shot, right? So if I was trying to, like, let's say like this is one drawing here from the actual shot, but to kind of go in like and predict where the character is going to be would be very difficult, right? So in other words, like, if I had to guess like maybe somewhere here, and I could probably draw it in there, but I wouldn't be sure exactly where the legs would be or where his balance would be, right? So straight ahead is a really great way, especially when working roughly, right? Like not trying to draw a super on model or anything like that. You're just trying to go through the actual shot, right? So if let me just do an out here. And we can go through our drawings and you'll see sort of what I mean, right? So like if I'm kind of doing this, like I'm trying to throw myself off balance here, right? So by having like a little bit of a twist, I know like his foot's going to be down here, but I'm just sort of sketching in the lines. In other words, like so that I can kind of feel where the actual action is going to be. So like in here, like maybe like the hand might be a little bit more like this rather than dragging backwards. And I can quickly make that change, because I can feel the flow from here, like where the arm is coming forward. And it's sort of chaotic, right? Because you don't really know exactly where you're going to end up. But like if the character's coming down here and I've got a bit of drag happening here, right? Like I can draw in his nose here. Right here, maybe he's sort of about there, right? And then as he's coming down, I'm dragging the head back. And then he's on the way up here. So in my mind, what I'm doing is I'm keeping in mind like the poses of the run, right? Which is you got like your in air pose, right? And then you got your contact, then you get your squash, then you got your thrusting pose. And this is sort of like the thrusting pose, right? So I got him in air, then I've got the contact, which doesn't necessarily have to be contacted with the ground. It's just preparing that leg to make contact with the ground so I can get into the squash, right? And I'm basically straight aheading this on twos. right? So it's like every other frame. So I'm not doing it on ones exactly like stop motion, but I'm basically going through my poses of a run and saying like, well, a fast run could be like 8 drawings, right? So 4 drawings on each side, on each leg. And that way I can kind of predict sort of what pose the character would be in at a generally good fast pace, right? So I'm going from a contact to the squash and then up to the thrusting. So I know that like for this character, he's off balance and he's sort of chaotic. He's running away from somebody who he thinks is going to be firing a weapon at him. I know that we're going to have like a thrusting here. So I'm pushing the body up, straightening the leg, kicking this leg through, right? And that forces like the body because he's coming down here, right? And then like once I'm pushing up with the hips, I know this is going to follow through. And this is sort of like that straight ahead approach, which gets you that really nice organic feel, right? And then like once I'm here, then I'm just, again, thinking about the actual poses. So I'm thrusting on this side now in air, right? So I'm up in the air here and then coming down for the contact, squash, and then coming up again, right? And then up into the in air pose again, where I can see his foot. So that when we see it in succession, we see these drawings in succession, it gives us this nice organic feel, which pose to pose is very, very difficult to do, right? So like I say, when I'm doing these types of shots, these action type shots, I'll do it a straight ahead manner where like it doesn't really, I mean, even though the character is drawn very scribbly, I can still feel what's actually happening. And then I can use CG as my cleanup process. Now, even though I've kind of worked this out on 2s, like I could probably use this straight into CG and I'd probably be fine. But I'd still want to do some live action reference exploration to see how my body's twisting or how fast I can get back into running normally. So that like I'm not going to leave something up to chance, right? Because in something like this, it's very chaotic. Like your arms are sort of not tied to the legs the way it would be if you were just running straight ahead on a treadmill. So I'm trying to feel out like what kind of arm movement, what kind of swing would happen here, like if I'm throwing myself off balance, right? So in here, I'm throwing myself off balance, but I'm starting to recover in and around here. So by this stage, I'm back into basically a normal run, right? So I'm not just swimming through the shot, like, you know, constantly swinging my arms like this. Like it's a little bit of that, you know, just to get myself regained and then back into this. So I'm using the straight ahead approach as a way of feeling my way through the shot, right? So I wouldn't use this for an acting shot because it's unpredictable. Like you don't know where that pose is going to end up, right? But if I'm doing an acting shot, I'll do the pose to pose first to make sure that I've got those golden poses, right? Where I'm hitting that exact pose, that exact head angle, the exact emotion, but then I'll do a straight ahead layer on top of that to make it feel organic in the way to get into that pose and out of that pose or playing the animation in that pose, right? So that's it. So pose to pose for something very predictable. And then for something that's chaotic and action and a lot of overlap and a lot of organic movement, straight ahead. All right. All the best, you guys. Take care. Bye.